The screwdriver slipped. 0.7 seconds. That is how long Louis Slotin had to stop a nuclear explosion that would vaporize Los Alamos and contaminate half of New Mexico with plutonium. 0.7 seconds to react, to think, to decide whether to save himself or save 2,000 people sleeping in barracks 300 yards away. His hand was already moving. The 2 hemispheres of plutonium, 6.2 kilograms each, were closing. Critical mass. The room flooded with blue light, not metaphorical, actual light. Cherenkov radiation, the electromagnetic scream of atoms splitting apart. The same light that filled the sky over Hiroshima 1 second before 140,000 people were erased. The Geiger counter exploded, not literally, but the sound, 5,000 clicks per second, so fast it became a single continuous shriek, like 1,000 insects dying all at once. Temperature in the room jumped 15 degrees in 2 seconds. The air tasted metallic, like licking a battery, but sharper, acid on the tongue. That was the radiation, ionizing his saliva, burning through the cells in his mouth. 8 men in the room, all frozen, staring at the blue glow between Slotin's hands. They knew what it meant. Every single one of them had seen the films from Japan. The shadows burned into concrete, the skin hanging off bodies like wet paper, the children with their eyes melted shut. And now that same power was 3 feet away, growing, doubling every fraction of a second. Slotin had one option: grab the top hemisphere with his bare hands and throw it. The plutonium was already heating, 300 degrees Celsius from the chain reaction, hot enough to boil water instantly, hot enough to melt skin on contact. And it weighed 6.2 kilograms, 13.6 pounds. The density of plutonium is 19.8 grams per cubic centimeter, almost twice as dense as lead, one of the heaviest substances on Earth. Slotin's hands would burn, 3rd degree, down to the bone. But if he hesitated, if he waited even 1 more second, the reaction would cascade, exponential, uncontrollable. The room would flash white, then nothing. A crater where the Omega Lab used to be. 2,000 dead, maybe more. The wind would carry the plutonium dust east, over Santa Fe, over Albuquerque. Radiation poisoning for 50 years. His hands moved, no gloves. He never wore gloves. They reduced precision, made it harder to feel the plutonium shells sliding together. That was his justification. The truth was different. The truth was that Louis Slotin thought he was too good to need gloves, too skilled, too experienced. 47 tests. 47 times he had brought plutonium to the edge of criticality and pulled it back. 47 times he walked away untouched. He believed his hands were steadier than anyone else's. Believed his reflexes were faster. Believed he could feel the moment before disaster and stop it. He was wrong. The hemispheres were closing. The gap was now less than 1 millimeter, less than the thickness of a human hair. And the screwdriver, his only tool, his only safety margin, was slipping out. His fingers closed around the top hemisphere. The heat hit instantly, like grabbing a stove burner, but worse, because this heat carried radiation, gamma rays, neutrons, alpha particles, all of them drilling through his skin, through muscle, through bone, into his DNA, shredding it, rewriting it, killing it. He did not scream. He threw. The top hemisphere flew across the room, hit the floor, rolled. The blue light vanished. The Geiger counter dropped to normal. Silence. The chain reaction stopped. Critical mass lost. Los Alamos saved. The 8 men in the room stared at Slotin. His hands were red, blistering, smoking. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. Pork. That is what burned human skin smells like. Pork. Slotin looked at his hands, then at the men. Then he said 6 words. "Well, that will cost me a few days." He knew. He had seen this before, 9 months earlier, August 21st, 1945. His colleague, Harry Daghlian. Same room, same plutonium core, different mistake. Daghlian was working alone at night, stacking tungsten carbide bricks around the demon core. That was what they called it, the demon core. This exact sphere of plutonium, 6.2 kilograms of death. Daghlian was testing neutron reflection, seeing how close he could bring the core to criticality by surrounding it with neutron reflectors. He stacked 1 brick too many. The core went critical. Blue light, heat, radiation. Daghlian knew instantly. He knocked the brick away with his bare hand, saved his own life for 25 days, 510 rems. That was Daghlian's dose, 10 times the lethal amount. Radiation does not kill you fast, not unless you are standing next to a nuclear explosion. It kills you slowly, cell by cell, organ by organ. The first 3 days, Daghlian felt fine, nauseous, weak, but fine. Then his skin started blistering, red patches, then purple, then black. His hair fell out in clumps, his gums bled, his teeth loosened. His internal organs began shutting down. Kidneys first, then liver, then lungs. He lost 60 pounds in 3 weeks, from 160 to 100, his body consuming itself, trying to repair damage that could not be repaired. On September 15th, 1945, Harry Daghlian died, 24 years old. Louis Slotin was there, standing next to the bed, watching his friend disintegrate. And yet here he was, 9 months later, same room, same core, same mistake. Why? Because someone had to do it. That was what he told himself. That was what he told Oppenheimer when the director ordered him to stop using hand manipulators, use mechanical arms, use remote systems, take 6 hours per test instead of 12 minutes. Slotin refused. Not because mechanical systems did not work. They worked fine. But because 6 hours times 50 cores times 3 tests per core meant 900 hours. 37 days. The military did not have 37 days. Stalin was building bombs. The Cold War was starting. America needed more weapons. Faster, better, safer. And Louis Slotin was the only physicist willing to work this fast. The only one willing to hold plutonium in his hands and feel the moment before it exploded. But there was another reason. Deeper, darker. Louis Slotin was born in Winnipeg, Canada, in 1910. His parents were Jewish immigrants. They fled Eastern Europe, fled the pogroms, fled the violence. Many of their relatives did not escape. Many were killed. By the time World War II started, the Nazis had murdered 6 million Jews. Slotin knew this, felt this, carried this. When he joined the Manhattan Project in 1944, he told himself he was building a weapon to stop genocide, to end the war, to save lives. The atomic bomb would force Japan to surrender, would prevent a land invasion, would spare millions. That was the justification. That was what they all believed. But then Hiroshima happened. August 6th, 1945. 1 bomb. 140,000 dead. Instantly, no warning, no evacuation, no chance. The city evaporated. Shadows burned into walls. People vaporized mid-step. Children playing in streets reduced to carbon stains. Then Nagasaki. August 9th. 80,000 more. 2 cities gone. And Louis Slotin realized something. The bomb did not stop genocide. The bomb was genocide. a weapon so powerful it could erase entire populations in seconds. And he had helped build it. His hands, his calculations, his tests. Every criticality experiment he performed made the next bomb more reliable, more deadly, more efficient. He had blood on his hands, 140,000 shadows worth of blood, and he could not wash it off, so he kept working, faster, harder, riskier, because if he stopped, it meant Daghlian died for nothing. It meant the bomb was meaningless. It meant those 140,000 deaths had no justification. But if he kept going, if he perfected the process, if he made nuclear weapons so safe that no American would ever die building them, then maybe the scales would balance. Maybe his guilt would ease. Maybe he could sleep without seeing Daghlian's face melting, without hearing the screams from Japan, without smelling burned flesh every time he closed his eyes. That was the logic. Twisted, broken, but human. Louis Slotin was not a hero. He was a man trying to outrun his conscience by running straight toward death. May 21st, 1946. The morning started wrong. Slotin woke at 6 a.m. His hands were shaking, slight tremor, barely visible. But there, he stared at them, clenched his fists, opened them, still shaking. First time in 8 months. He told himself it was caffeine. He had drunk too much coffee the night before, but he knew better. His body was trying to warn him. Stop, rest, slow down. He ignored it, got dressed, ate breakfast, walked to the Omega lab, arrived at 8 a.m., reviewed the day's schedule. 2 criticality tests, routine, standard, nothing unusual, except his hands were still shaking. The first test was at noon, same procedure, same equipment, same demon core. Slotin set up the experiment. 2 hemispheres of plutonium surrounded by beryllium shells, neutron reflectors. The beryllium amplified the reaction, made the plutonium easier to push toward criticality. Slotin would slide the top hemisphere over the bottom one using a screwdriver as a spacer. By adjusting the gap, he could control the neutron flux, could measure how close the core was to exploding. The screwdriver was 7 inches long, steel, flathead, bent slightly at the tip from months of use, rusted, old. The only thing standing between controlled experiment and nuclear disaster. The test went fine. No problems. The core behaved exactly as predicted. Slotin recorded the data, sent it to Oppenheimer's office. His hands stopped shaking. He felt better, confident, ready. The second test was scheduled for 3:20 p.m. Same procedure, same core. But this time, there were observers, 7 men, scientists, technicians, security officers. They wanted to see how Slotin worked, wanted to learn his technique, wanted to understand why his tests were so much faster than everyone else's. Slotin liked having an audience. It made him feel important, validated. He set up the experiment faster than usual, showing off. The hemispheres were positioned, the beryllium shells in place, the screwdriver wedged between them, gap of 3 millimeters, safe distance. Slotin began adjusting, slowly, carefully. The Geiger counter ticked faster. Good. That meant neutrons were reflecting, bouncing back into the plutonium, amplifying the reaction. He tilted the screwdriver. The gap narrowed. 2 millimeters. The Geiger counter accelerated, still safe. 1 millimeter. The blue glow started. Faint, barely visible. Cherenkov radiation. The edge of criticality. And then the screwdriver slipped. His hands were sweating. The steel was slick. The angle was wrong. The top hemisphere dropped. Closed. Critical mass achieved. Blue light flooded the room. Geiger counter screamed. Temperature spiked. Slotin's mouth filled with metal taste. He had 0.7 seconds to decide. Let go and run, or grab the hemisphere and stop the reaction. If he ran, he might survive. The dose would be lower, maybe survivable, maybe treatable. But the 7 men in the room would die, and the chain reaction would continue, would grow, would detonate. Los Alamos would be destroyed. 2,000 dead, 50 years of contamination. Or he could grab the plutonium, burn his hands, absorb a lethal dose, but save everyone else. Save the facility, save the project, save the future. He grabbed it. Bare hands. 300 degrees. Radiation flooding through his skin, into his bones, into his marrow. He threw the hemisphere across the room. The reaction stopped. The light vanished. Silence. His hands were smoking. The 7 men were safe. The facility was safe. The demon core was inert again, but Louis Slotin had just killed himself. He looked at his hands. Blisters forming, skin peeling, red, black, purple. He knew what came next. He had watched Daglian die, watched every stage, documented every symptom, and now it was his turn. He had 9 days, maybe less, depending on the dose, depending on how much radiation had penetrated. He looked at the 7 men. They were staring, pale, horrified. Slotin smiled, forced, weak, and said, "Well, that will cost me a few days." He was wrong. It would cost him everything. Slotin walked to the infirmary. He did not run, did not panic, did not scream. His hands were burning, blisters forming in real time, skin peeling back like wet paper. But he walked calmly, purposefully. The 7 men followed behind, silent, terrified. They had all absorbed radiation. But Slotin knew the truth. His dose was different. His dose was lethal. How much? He could calculate it. He was a physicist. He knew the neutron flux, knew the exposure time, knew the distance. 2,100 rems, minimum. The lethal dose for a human being is 450 rems. Slotin had absorbed 4.6 times that amount in 0.7 seconds. There was no treatment, no antidote, no cure. His cells were already dying, DNA shredded, chromosomes broken, mitochondria destroyed. Within hours, his bone marrow would stop producing blood cells. Within days, his organs would shut down. Within 9 days, he would be dead. But Slotin did not think about that, not yet. He thought about data, information, science. He burst through the infirmary door. The doctor looked up, saw Slotin's hands, saw the burns, saw the blisters, and knew immediately what had happened. The doctor's name was Louis Hempelmann. He had treated Harry Daglian 9 months earlier, had watched him die slowly, had documented every symptom, every stage of radiation poisoning. And now here was Louis Slotin. Same burns, same exposure, same fate. Hempelmann's face went white. He opened his mouth. No words came out. Slotin spoke first. His voice was steady, cold, clinical. Critical mass achieved at 15:21 hours. Duration 0.7 seconds. 8 personnel exposed. I absorbed the highest dose. Estimate 2,100 rems minimum. Need to establish baseline blood count immediately. Draw samples every 6 hours. Document everything. Hempelmann stared. This man was dying, and he was giving orders, turning himself into an experiment. Slotin continued. I need you to record every symptom, every change, exact timing, temperature, pulse, blood pressure, nausea, dizziness, pain levels, everything. This data will save lives, future exposures, future accidents. Someone has to survive my stupidity. Make it count. Hempelmann nodded. What else could he do? He drew blood, took vitals, recorded baseline numbers. White blood cell count was normal. For now, that would change. Radiation does not kill instantly. It kills methodically. Cell division stops first. Then existing cells die off. Then organs fail. Then death. The process takes days, sometimes weeks, depending on the dose. Slotin's dose meant 9 days, maybe 10. Hempelmann had seen it before. The 7 other men were examined, blood drawn, vitals recorded. Their doses were lower, between 20 and 100 rems each. Survivable, probably. But they would all develop symptoms: nausea, fatigue, hair loss, increased cancer risk for the rest of their lives. But they would live, because Slotin had grabbed the plutonium, had stopped the chain reaction, had absorbed the bulk of the radiation himself. He had saved them and killed himself. They knew it. He knew it. Nobody spoke. Slotin was moved to a private room, bed, monitors, IV line. The room was small, windowless, sterile, white walls, white sheets, white tile floor, the same room where Harry Daghlian had died. Slotin sat on the bed, looked at his hands. The blisters were growing, fluid filling the gaps between skin layers, red, purple, black. The pain was intense, like holding his hands over an open flame, but worse, because this burn went deep, through skin, through muscle, into bone. The nerves were screaming, every receptor firing at maximum intensity. Slotin clenched his jaw, did not cry out, did not complain. He asked for a notebook. Hempelmann brought one. Slotin began writing. Left hand. Right hand was too damaged. He documented everything: time of exposure, duration, distance from core, estimated neutron flux, gamma ray intensity. His handwriting was shaky, but legible. Every detail mattered. Every measurement counted. This was science. This was his legacy. Word spread fast. Los Alamos was a small facility. Everyone knew everyone. Within an hour, the entire complex knew about the accident, knew that Slotin had gone critical, knew he was dying. Robert Oppenheimer arrived at 6 p.m. He walked into the infirmary, saw Slotin sitting on the bed, writing notes. Oppenheimer's face was stone, but his eyes betrayed him. Grief, anger, guilt. He had ordered Slotin to stop using manual methods, had ordered him to use remote manipulators, had told him repeatedly that this would happen, and Slotin had ignored him. And now, here they were. Oppenheimer sat down, said nothing. What could he say? I told you so. That would be cruel, useless. True, but useless. Slotin looked up, smiled, weak, forced. I was stupid. You were right. Remote systems from now on, no exceptions. Oppenheimer nodded. Too late for that. Slotin's smile faded. I know, but not too late for the next guy. Not too late to make sure this never happens again. That is why I am documenting everything, every symptom, every stage, every moment. Someone has to learn from this. Someone has to benefit. Make my death mean something. Oppenheimer's jaw tightened. He stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the desert. The sun was setting. Orange, red, beautiful. Your death already means something. It means we built something we cannot control. It means we unleashed a power that kills anyone who touches it. It means we are all complicit. He turned back to Slotin. You are not the villain here. We all are. Slotin shook his head. I made the choice. I ignored your orders. I took the risk. I wanted to be faster, better, more efficient. I wanted recognition. I wanted to prove I was indispensable. And look where it got me. He held up his hands. The blisters had burst, fluid leaking, blood seeping through. The skin was black, necrotic, dead tissue. This is what ambition looks like. This is what arrogance costs. Oppenheimer said nothing. He walked out, closed the door, stood in the hallway, put his hand against the wall, and for the first time since Hiroshima, he wept. Night fell. Slotin could not sleep. The pain was too intense. His hands felt like they were being crushed in a vice, every nerve ending on fire. Hempelmann offered morphine. Slotin refused. Not yet. I need to stay alert, need to document symptoms. Pain is a symptom. Intensity, duration, location, all of it matters, Hempelmann tried to argue. Slotin cut him off. I am dying anyway. Let me die usefully. Let me contribute something, anything, please. Hempelmann relented, left the morphine on the bedside table, just in case. Slotin kept writing, temperature rising, 100.2 Fahrenheit, nausea beginning, mild, manageable, hands swelling, blisters spreading up forearms, pulse elevated, 110 beats per minute, blood pressure dropping, 90/60, signs of shock, expected, documented. At midnight, a visitor arrived, a woman. Her name was Eleanor Yetta. She was a nurse. She had worked with Slotin on previous experiments. They had been close, not romantically, but close. She had warned him, repeatedly, told him to slow down, use safety protocols, stop taking risks. He had laughed it off, called her paranoid, overly cautious. Now she stood in the doorway, staring at him, her eyes red. She had been crying. Slotin looked up, saw her. His expression softened. Eleanor, you were right. I should have listened. She walked in, sat next to the bed, took his left hand, carefully, gently, avoiding the burns. Why did you do it? Why did you keep pushing? You knew this would happen. Everyone knew. Slotin looked away. Because I had to prove I was not a monster. I built a weapon that killed 140,000 people, children, families, innocent civilians. I told myself it was necessary, that it saved lives, that it ended the war. But every night I see their faces, burned, melting, screaming, and I cannot sleep. So I worked, faster, harder, riskier, because if I perfected the process, if I made the bomb safer, then maybe it would balance out. Maybe I could justify what I did. Maybe I could live with myself. Eleanor's grip tightened. You did not drop the bomb. You did not give the order. You are not responsible for Hiroshima. Slotin shook his head. I built it. My hands, my calculations, my tests. Every bomb that falls, I am part of it. Every death, I contributed. And now I am paying for it. This is karma. This is justice. The demon core killed me. The same core I tested for Nagasaki. Poetic, fitting, deserved. Eleanor stood up, angry. Stop it. You saved 7 lives today. 7 men who would have died if you had not acted. You threw yourself on that plutonium like a grenade. You are a hero. Slotin laughed, bitter, hollow. A hero who built a genocide machine. A hero who ignored safety protocols. A hero who dies in 9 days. Some hero. Eleanor left. She could not watch, could not sit there and listen to him destroy himself. Slotin returned to his notes. Hour 6, nausea intensifying, vomited twice, clear fluid, no blood yet. That will come later. Hands completely numb now. Nerve damage, irreversible. Temperature 100.6, pulse 120, blood pressure 80/50, body going into shock, compensating, not working, expected timeline, everything on schedule, dying by the numbers. Day 2 began. Slotin felt better, temporarily. This was expected, the latent phase. After initial symptoms, radiation victims often improve. They feel normal, almost healthy. It is a lie, a cruel trick. The cells are still dying. The damage is still spreading, but the body has not realized it yet. Slotin knew this. He had watched Daglian go through the same thing. Daglian had been optimistic on day 2, thought he might survive, thought the doctors were wrong. He was not wrong. He was in denial. And 3 days later, the real symptoms started, and he never recovered. Slotin did not allow himself hope. He knew the science, knew the timeline, knew what came next, but his body betrayed him. He felt hungry, ate breakfast, toast, eggs, orange juice. It tasted good. He had not eaten in 20 hours. The nausea had passed. His hands still hurt, but less. The numbness helped. He could move his fingers, slightly, enough to write. He filled 6 pages that morning, detailed observations, temperature curves, blood cell counts, white blood cells dropping, expected, lymphocytes gone, immune system shutting down, red blood cells stable, for now, platelets decreasing, clotting ability compromised, bleeding will start soon, internal first, then external, then everywhere. Visitors came, scientists, friends, colleagues. They stood in the doorway, afraid to get too close, afraid that radiation was contagious. It was not, but fear does not listen to logic. They offered condolences, prayers, support. Slotin thanked them, politely, mechanically. He did not want their pity. He wanted their attention. He showed them his notes, explained the data, taught them, made them understand. This is what radiation does. This is how it kills. This is why you must never make my mistake. Learn from this. Do not let it happen again. Enrico Fermi visited. The man who had warned Slotin a year earlier. The man who had said, "You will be dead within a year if you keep doing this." Fermi stood at the foot of the bed, silent, his face unreadable. Slotin looked at him. "You were right. I should have listened." Fermi shook his head. "I take no pleasure in being right. I wish I had been wrong." He paused. "Why did you do it? You knew the risk. You knew the odds. Why gamble your life?" Slotin met his eyes. "Because I already lost my life. The moment I helped build the bomb, I lost my humanity. I became a murderer, an accomplice to genocide, and I have been trying to earn it back ever since. Trying to prove I am more than the worst thing I ever did. But I failed, and now I pay the price." Fermi left. He could not argue. He felt the same guilt. They all did. Every physicist at Los Alamos carried the weight of Hiroshima, of Nagasaki, of the 140,000 dead. They told themselves it was necessary, that it saved lives, that a land invasion would have killed millions. But late at night, when they closed their eyes, they saw the shadows burned into concrete. They heard the screams. They smelled the burning flesh. And they wondered if they were heroes or monsters. Slotin had chosen his answer, and now he was dying for it. Day 3. The symptoms returned. Worse, much worse. Slotin woke at 4 a.m., vomiting blood, dark, clotted. His stomach lining was disintegrating. The cells in his digestive tract divide rapidly. That makes them vulnerable to radiation. They die first, and when they die, the stomach bleeds. Slotin leaned over the bed, wretched. Blood poured out. Hempelman rushed in, tried to help. Slotin pushed him away. "Document it. Time, volume, color, consistency, all of it. This is data. This is science. Do not waste it." Hempelman obeyed. He measured, recorded, photographed. Slotin vomited 3 more times in the next hour. Each time, more blood. By 6 a.m., he had lost half a liter. His blood pressure dropped to 70/40. His pulse was 140. He was going into hypovolemic shock. His body was running out of blood. Transfusion, IV line, whole blood, type O negative, universal donor. The blood flowed in. Slotin's pressure stabilized, temporarily, But the bleeding did not stop. His stomach continued to hemorrhage. By noon, he needed another transfusion, and another at 6 p.m., and another at midnight. The blood bank at Los Alamos was running low. They called Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Denver. Blood was flown in. Donors lined up. Soldiers, scientists, civilians. Everyone wanted to help. Everyone knew Slotin had saved 7 lives. Now they were trying to save his. But it was pointless. You cannot transfuse faster than a stomach bleeds. You cannot replace cells that will not grow. You cannot cure radiation poisoning with blood. But they tried anyway, because doing nothing felt worse. Day 4. Slotin's hair started falling out in clumps. He ran his left hand through his hair, came away with a fistful, black, thick, dead. The follicles had stopped producing. The cells were gone. He would be bald by tomorrow. He looked at the hair in his hand, studied it, like a specimen, then dropped it on the floor, kept writing. Hair loss beginning. Day 4. Expected. Follicle cells highly mitotic, vulnerable to radiation. Complete alopecia anticipated within 24 hours. His handwriting was shakier now. The pain was returning. His hands were swelling again. The skin was turning black. Necrotic tissue spreading. Gangrene. The flesh was rotting while he was still alive. The smell filled the room. Sweet, sickly, decomposition. Hempelman opened a window. It did not help. Slotin looked at his right hand. It no longer looked human. It looked like charcoal, black, cracked, oozing. The fingers were fused together, immobile. Hempelman suggested amputation, cut off the dead tissue, prevent infection. Slotin refused. What is the point? I am dying anyway. Let me keep my hands, even if they are useless, even if they are rotting. They are mine. I earned this. I deserve this. Let me wear my sins. Hempelman did not argue. He bandaged the hands, wrapped them in gauze soaked in saline. It did nothing, but it made him feel useful. The gauze turned black within an hour, soaked through with necrotic fluid. Day 5. Slotin could no longer write. His left hand was too weak, too shaky, too painful. He dictated instead. Hempelman sat next to the bed with a notepad. Slotin spoke. Slowly, each word an effort. Temperature 104. Pulse 150. Blood pressure 60/30. Internal bleeding worsening. Vomited blood 4 times overnight. Estimate 1 liter total loss. Skin lesions spreading. Necrosis visible on both hands and forearms. Tissue death extending to elbows. Smell unbearable. Morphine administered at 0300 hours. Minimal effect. Pain level 10 out of 10. Nervous system compromised. He paused, gasped, continued. Recommendation: future criticality accidents. Immediate high-dose steroid treatment. Reduce inflammation. Delay organ failure. Will not save patient, but may extend survival. Allow more time for data collection. More time for goodbyes. Hempelman stopped writing, looked at Slotin. You are thinking about the next person, even now, even dying. You are trying to help. Slotin smiled, blood on his teeth. His gums were bleeding now. What else can I do? I cannot undo Hiroshima, cannot bring back the dead, cannot change what I built. But I can make sure nobody else dies like Daglian, like me. I can turn my death into a lesson, into a warning, into something useful. That is all I have left. Let me have it. Day 6. Slotin stopped eating. He could not keep food down. Everything came back up, blood and bile. His stomach was completely destroyed. The lining was gone. Acid eating through muscle. Soon it would perforate. Peritonitis, sepsis, death. But not yet, not today. He had 3 more days, maybe 4. His body was stubborn, refusing to quit. Hempelman offered IV nutrition, glucose, electrolytes. Slotin accepted, not because he wanted to live, but because he wanted to document. 3 more days of data, 3 more days of symptoms, 3 more days of science. That was his purpose now, his only purpose. His parents arrived, flew in from Canada. They had been notified on day 1, but travel took time. They walked into the room, saw their son, and stopped. This was not the man they knew. This was a skeleton, skin hanging off bones, eyes sunken, lips cracked and bleeding, hair gone, hands blackened and rotting. Their son was gone. What remained was a corpse that still breathed. His mother screamed, collapsed. His father caught her, held her, stared at Slotin, silent tears running down his face. Slotin tried to smile, failed. "I am sorry, I made a mistake. This is the consequence." His father shook his head. "You saved 7 men. You are a hero." Slotin closed his eyes. "I am a dead man. There is a difference." They stayed for 2 hours, sat next to the bed, held his left hand, the only one that did not hurt to touch. They prayed, Hebrew prayers, prayers for healing, prayers for peace, prayers for the dying. Slotin did not believe in God, but he let them pray. It gave them comfort, and comfort was all he could offer now. When they left, his mother kissed his forehead, whispered in his ear, "I love you, I forgive you, come home soon." Slotin nodded, did not tell her the truth, that he would never go home, that this room was his grave, that in 3 days she would be burying him. Let her have hope, even false hope. It was kinder. Day 7. Slotin's throat closed, ulcers covering his mouth and esophagus. The mucous membranes were gone. Radiation kills fast-dividing cells first, and the cells lining the digestive tract divide constantly. They were the first to go. Now his throat was raw meat. Every breath was agony. Every swallow was knives. He communicated by blinking. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. Hempelman asked questions. Slotin answered. Pain level? 1 blink. 10 out of 10. Bleeding? 1 blink. Everywhere. Can you continue? Long pause. Then 1 blink. Yes. At noon, his fingernails fell off. All 10. Just dropped onto the sheets like dead insects. The nail beds underneath were black, exposed, weeping clear fluid. Hempelman stared. He had never seen this before. Not with Daglian. Not in any medical text. He photographed it, measured it, documented it. Slotin was right. This data would save lives, future victims, future treatments, but it was horrifying. Watching a man disintegrate piece by piece. Hempelman wanted to leave, wanted to run, but he stayed, because Slotin needed him, because someone had to bear witness. Day 8. Slotin's organs began shutting down. Kidneys first. Urine output dropped to 0. Toxins building in his blood. Uremia, confusion, hallucinations. He saw Harry Daglian standing in the corner, saw the demon core glowing blue, saw the children of Hiroshima burning, screaming, reaching for him. He tried to speak, no sound. Tried to move, no strength. His body was shutting down, system by system, organ by organ, cell by cell. At 2 p.m., his eyes started bleeding. Not tears, blood. Crimson streaks running down his cheeks. The capillaries in his eyes had ruptured, hemorrhaging into the vitreous fluid. He blinked. More blood. It soaked into the pillow, turned it red. Hempelman wiped it away. But it kept coming. There was nothing he could do. Nothing anyone could do. Slotin was dissolving from the inside out. His body was eating itself, consuming what was left, trying desperately to survive, failing. Hempelman stayed by his side, monitoring, recording, documenting, fulfilling Slotin's final wish: make my death mean something. The room smelled like death, sweet, rotten, metallic, blood and decay. Hempelman breathed through his mouth. It did not help. The smell was everywhere, in his clothes, in his hair, in his lungs. He would smell it for weeks after, months, years. Every time he closed his eyes, he would see Slotin dissolving, would hear the labored breathing, would smell the rot. This was the cost of the atomic age. This was what they had built, not just bombs, but suffering, endless, incomprehensible suffering. Day 9, May 30th, 1946, 11 a.m. Louis Slotin stopped breathing. His heart stopped. His brain stopped. His body, what remained of it, finally surrendered. He weighed 93 pounds. He had lost 75 pounds in 9 days. His skin was black. His organs were liquid. His DNA was destroyed beyond recognition. He was 35 years old. Hempelman stood up, closed Slotin's eyes, pulled the sheet over his face, and walked out of the room. He had 212 pages of notes, 212 pages of suffering, 212 pages of data that would save thousands of lives in the decades to come. Chernobyl, Tokaimura, Fukushima, every radiation accident, every treatment protocol, every safety regulation, all of it built on Louis Slotin's death. He had wanted his death to mean something. It did. It meant everything. But it also meant that somewhere, deep in the New Mexico desert, a man had died slowly, painfully, documenting his own destruction, so that others might live. That was heroism. That was sacrifice. That was the true cost of the atomic bomb. Not just the cities destroyed, but the men who built it, who died for it, who gave everything so the world could understand what they had unleashed. Louis Slotin was one of them, and his death would never be forgotten. The Demon Core did not die with Louis Slotin. It survived, sitting in its case, inert, waiting, 6.2 kilograms of plutonium, the most dangerous substance on Earth. It had killed 2 men, Harry Daghlian, Louis Slotin, 2 brilliant physicists, 2 agonizing deaths, 9 days of documented suffering, and yet Los Alamos kept it, kept using it, kept testing it, because plutonium was rare, irreplaceable, worth more than gold, worth more than lives. The military needed bombs, dozens of them, hundreds. The Cold War was beginning. Stalin was building his own atomic program. America could not afford to waste a single gram, not even if that gram had killed, not even if that gram was cursed. So the Demon Core remained in service. But changes were made, mandatory changes, ordered by Oppenheimer, ordered by the Atomic Energy Commission, ordered by the United States government. No more manual testing, no more screwdrivers, no more human hands touching plutonium at the edge of criticality. From now on, remote manipulators only. Mechanical arms, shielding, distance, time. The tests would take 6 hours instead of 12 minutes, but nobody would die. That was the trade. Efficiency for safety, speed for survival. Slotin had died to teach them that lesson, and they learned. Finally, the Demon Core was moved to a new facility, Building 9, deep underground, concrete walls, lead shielding, radiation monitors, emergency systems, everything Slotin did not have, everything that could have saved him. The physicists who worked there called it the Slotin Room, not officially, but everyone knew, everyone remembered. Some of them had been there, had watched him throw the hemisphere, had seen the blue light, had smelled the burned flesh. They worked in silence now, carefully, methodically, No showing off, no shortcuts, no risks, because the ghost of Louis Slotin was watching, and nobody wanted to join him. July 1946, 2 months after Slotin's death. The Demon Core underwent its final test. Remote manipulators, mechanical systems, everything by the book. The physicists watched from behind lead glass, monitored neutron counts, recorded temperatures, documented everything. Just like Slotin would have wanted, the test was successful. The core reached criticality under controlled conditions. The data was perfect, clean, precise, no blue light, no screaming Geiger counters, no radiation exposure, just science, pure, cold, safe. The Demon Core had finally been tamed, or so they thought. The core was scheduled for use in an actual weapon, Operation Crossroads, Bikini Atoll, July 25, 1946. The United States was planning a series of nuclear tests in the Pacific, testing the effects of atomic bombs on naval vessels, testing blast patterns, radiation spread, damage assessments. The Demon Core was perfect for this. 6.2 kilograms of plutonium, fully tested, fully characterized, ready for deployment. It would be loaded into a bomb, dropped from a plane, detonated over a fleet of surplus warships, and finally, after killing 2 men, it would serve its intended purpose: destruction, mass destruction, not personal, not intimate, but industrial, clinical, the way war was meant to be fought in the atomic age. But then something unexpected happened. The military changed the test schedule, moved the date up from July 25th to July 1st, 24 days earlier. The Demon Core was not ready. The bomb casing had not been manufactured yet. The detonation mechanism was still being tested. The physicists scrambled, worked around the clock, tried to meet the new deadline, but it was impossible. Physics takes time. Engineering takes time. You cannot rush an atomic bomb, not safely, not reliably. The deadline passed. July 1st came and went. Operation Crossroads proceeded without the Demon Core. A different core was used instead, a newer one, a safer one that had not killed anyone. The Demon Core sat in storage, unused, unwanted, obsolete. The military no longer needed it. They had newer cores now, better cores, cores without history, without ghosts, without curses. The Demon Core was retired, officially decommissioned. August 1946, 3 months after Slotin's death. The core was placed in a secure vault, Los Alamos, Building 7, Sublevel 2, a concrete room with no windows, no ventilation, no light, just darkness and plutonium, 6.2 kilograms of death, sitting alone, forgotten, left to decay. But in January 1947, something strange happened. The vault where the Demon Core was stored began showing elevated radiation levels. Not dangerous levels, not immediately, but higher than expected, higher than background. The monitors flagged it. Security investigated. They opened the vault and found nothing wrong. The core was intact. The shielding was intact. The container was sealed. Everything was normal, except the radiation levels. They were increasing, slowly, steadily, 0.1 millirem per hour more than expected. Not much, but measurable and unexplained. The physicists were called in. They examined the core, ran tests, took measurements, and discovered something that made no sense. The plutonium was heating up, not from radioactive decay. That was constant, expected, normal. This was different. The core was 3 degrees Celsius hotter than it should be. 3 degrees. Not enough to melt anything. Not enough to cause a reaction. But enough to be wrong. Enough to be impossible. According to every known law of physics, the demon core should not be generating heat. It was inert, stable, contained, and yet it was, as if the plutonium was still reacting, still fissioning, still trying to go critical, even in isolation, even in darkness, even in death. The phenomenon was studied for 6 months, teams of physicists, round-the-clock monitoring, every theory tested, every calculation checked. No explanation was found, no mechanism was discovered, no law of physics could account for it. And then one physicist noticed something nobody else had seen. The vault walls, concrete, 3 feet thick, lead-lined, radiation-proof, built to contain plutonium for centuries. There were cracks, hairline fractures, spreading from the storage container outward, like a spider web, like the concrete was trying to escape from something. The physicist measured them, photographed them, compared them to blueprints from when the vault was built. The cracks had not been there before. They were new, growing, spreading at a rate of 0.3 millimeters per week. He brought in structural engineers. They examined the concrete, took core samples, ran stress tests, and found something impossible. The concrete was decaying, molecular degradation. The calcium silicate hydrate bonds were breaking down. The aggregate was crumbling. The concrete was aging, but not at a normal rate, at 50 times the normal rate, as if 50 years had passed in the 6 months since the demon core had been placed in the vault. The engineers could not explain it. Concrete does not age like this, not without external factors, not without water damage, not without chemical exposure, not without stress. But the vault was dry, sealed, protected, and yet the concrete was dying, falling apart, as if the plutonium was not just radioactive, but corrosive to reality itself, to time, to matter, to everything it touched. Panic set in. Quiet panic. Official panic. The kind that happens behind closed doors with generals and scientists, and men in suits who do not smile. If the vault was failing, if the containment was compromised, if the demon core was somehow eating through concrete at 50 times normal speed, then Los Alamos had a problem. A big problem. Because there were other vaults, other cores, other weapons, and if this was happening to one, it could happen to all of them. The entire nuclear arsenal could be sitting in vaults that were slowly disintegrating, crumbling, failing, and nobody had noticed. Edward Teller proposed a theory, the father of the hydrogen bomb, a man who understood destruction better than anyone. Teller argued that the demon core had been damaged by the 2 criticality accidents, that the neutron flux had altered the crystal structure of the plutonium at the atomic level, had created microscopic fission events, micro-reactions that continued indefinitely, like embers in a fire that never fully dies. The core was not inert, it was wounded, and it was bleeding energy, slowly, imperceptibly, but continuously, and that energy was interacting with the concrete, breaking molecular bonds, accelerating decay, destroying containment. Teller called it latent criticality, a new phenomenon, undocumented, unpredicted, dangerous. Richard Feynman disagreed, one of the greatest minds of the 20th century. Feynman argued that Teller was wrong, that latent criticality was impossible, that the physics did not work, that what they were seeing was not plutonium damaging concrete, but concrete damaged by poor construction, by water infiltration, by stress from the weight of the building above, by normal aging accelerated by flawed materials. Feynman said the heating was measurement error, instrument drift, confirmation bias. The physicists were seeing what they expected to see, grief and guilt influencing their data. The demon core was not haunted. It was just plutonium, inert, harmless, dead, and the cracks were just cracks. But neither theory could be proven. Neither could be disproven. The debate raged for weeks, papers written, calculations checked, arguments made. And while the scientists argued, the cracks kept spreading. 0.3 millimeters per week, every week, unstoppable. By March 1947, the vault walls had deteriorated enough that evacuation was discussed. Moving the core, relocating it, recontaining it. But where? Every vault at Los Alamos was concrete. If the demon core was destroying one vault, it would destroy another, and transport was dangerous. Moving 6.2 kilograms of plutonium across the facility risked another accident, another exposure, another death. Nobody wanted that responsibility. Nobody wanted to be the next Slotin. So in April 1947, the decision was made. The demon core would be destroyed, melted down, reprocessed, turned into new cores, new bombs, new weapons. The United States had enough plutonium now, enough production, enough reserves. They did not need this cursed lump of metal anymore. They did not need the mystery, the danger, the fear. The demon core would be erased, and with it, the question of whether Teller or Feynman was right. Because once the plutonium was melted and mixed and redistributed, there would be no way to study it, no way to test it, no way to know if latent criticality was real or imagined. The demon core would take its secrets to the grave, or to the furnace. Same thing. August 1949, Los Alamos. The demon core was removed from storage, transported to the reprocessing facility, placed in a furnace, heated to 640 degrees Celsius, the melting point of plutonium. The core liquefied, turned into silvery metal, glowing, molten, beautiful in a terrible way. And then it was poured, split, divided, mixed with other plutonium, diluted, contaminated, made impure, made safe, made forgettable. Within hours, the demon core ceased to exist. Its atoms were scattered, redistributed, incorporated into dozens of new cores, new bombs, new weapons, and nobody knew which ones. Nobody could trace them. Nobody could say, this bomb contains the plutonium that killed Harry Daghlian. This one contains the metal that burned Louis Slotin's hands. The demon core had become anonymous, and perhaps that was mercy, or perhaps it was just pragmatism. The atomic age did not have time for guilt, did not have room for ghosts, only results, only power, only the next target, but the legacy remained, the data, the 212 pages of notes, the documentation of Slotin's death, the protocols, the procedures, the safety regulations, all of it written in blood, all of it purchased with suffering, and it saved lives, thousands of them. Chernobyl, 1986. The protocols developed from Slotin's death saved hundreds. Tokai Mura, 1999. The treatment methods extended lives, gave families closure. Fukushima, 2011. The evacuation procedures, the decontamination methods, all traced back to Los Alamos, to 1946, to a white room where Louis Slotin died, documenting his own destruction so that others might live. That was the true legacy, not the deaths, not the fear, but the knowledge, the understanding that atomic power demands responsibility, demands sacrifice, demands the willingness to die so others will not have to. And in every safety protocol, in every radiation badge, in every warning sign, the demon core lives on, whispering, warning, do not make my mistake.